What if China created a digital currency strong enough to challenge the US dollar? It may sound like a distant possibility, but it's not. Right now, Beijing is working on a stablecoin tied to the yuan, a project that could reshape global trade. And this is not just finance, it's geopolitics, how the dollar took over. Before World War II, the global economy ran on the gold standard. Nations stored gold, and their currencies were backed by it, but the war changed everything. When it ended, the United States emerged as the clear winner. Its economy was intact, its industries were strong, and it held most of the world's gold. In 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement sealed the deal. The dollar became the global reserve currency tied to gold. Other countries pegged their currencies to the dollar, and in return, the dollar could be converted into gold at a fixed rate. By the 1970s, President Nixon ended the gold standard. But by then, it didn't matter. The dollar had already become the backbone of global trade, especially since oil, the world's most vital commodity, was priced in dollars. Today, nearly 80% of international trade still runs through the US dollar. In other words, the global financial system depends not just on money, but on the United States itself. China's plan. Now, China wants to change that. Beijing is studying the creation of a digital stablecoin backed by the yuan. Why? Because digital money is faster, easier to track, and far harder for the US to control through sanctions. And this is not an isolated project. It's part of a bigger strategy. The BRICS initiative. This group, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, has been pushing to trade in local currencies, reducing dependence on the dollar. And it's already happening. Brazilian companies, like Chili Beans, have started buying directly from China in yuan, skipping the dollar entirely. It may look small now, but if multiplied across thousands of companies and dozens of countries, global demand for the dollar begins to shrink. Why? This is dangerous for the US and for the world. For the United States, this is about more than economics. It's about power. The US didn't just win World War II, it built the financial order that followed. The dollar is the foundation of that system, and it gives Washington extraordinary influence. The power to enforce sanctions, the power to finance its military and global presence with a trusted currency, the power to set the rules of global trade. If the world starts using more yuan, that influence weakens. And here's the critical detail. The digital yuan is not like the dollar. While the dollar circulates freely worldwide, without Washington monitoring every single transaction, the yuan is monitored by the Chinese state in real time. Every payment, every transfer, every purchase can be tracked and, if necessary, blocked or even programmed by the government. That means adopting China's currency is not just switching means of payment, it's stepping into a system of state surveillance. This may attract authoritarian governments that enjoy control, but it scares businesses, investors, and countries that value freedom and privacy. And it's not just about economics. There's also an ideological factor. The US is a democracy. China is a communist state. If Beijing expands its financial reach, it won't stop at trade. It could also export its political model, influencing how nations align not just economically, but ideologically. The challenges of the digital yuan, but none of this is guaranteed. The yuan is not a fully convertible currency. The Chinese government still tightly controls capital flows. That makes international trust difficult. And trust takes decades to build. History shows that many have tried to challenge the dollar before. The euro, the Japanese yen, even gold itself. And none succeeded in dethroning it. For China, the question is not just, can we build it? It's, will the world actually use it? The future, multipolarity, or US hegemony. So what comes next? If China succeeds, the future could look multipolar, with the dollar, the euro, and the UN all sharing global dominance. That would weaken America's absolute grip, but also spread risk across more currencies. And the risk is real. China has proven that it can achieve its goals. Until the 1990s, it was a relatively small economy. Today, it is an economic, military, and technological powerhouse, with companies and investments spread all over the world, from telecommunications to energy, from rare earths to mining. Many of these strategic sectors are controlled directly or indirectly by Chinese firms that arguably should not hold that much influence. And China is not walking alone, with countries like Brazil, Russia, and India, all with GDPs above $1 trillion. Beijing finds allies to legitimize its financial experiments and challenge the current order. And here, a personal reflection. I don't know about you, but since World War II, the world felt more stable under US hegemony. Now, with other major powers gaining influence and bringing very different ideologies, we are entering uncertain ground. This could mean not just new trade disputes, but even territorial expansion and nations effectively commanded from abroad, financially tied to a government that believes in centralizing power under a single authority. In other words, the real question is not whether China wants to end the dollar ERA, it is whether the world is ready to live under multiple centers of power, each with its own vision of how the system should work. If this breakdown made sense, hit like and share it with someone who still thinks geopolitics is too far away, because whether digital or not, money has never been just about numbers. It's about power.